The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, welcome along to the webinar today. It's great to see so many of you here. I can see we've got quite a few people still filtering through, so I won't start straight away. I'll just let those few people get in and get comfortable before we kick things off. But how is everyone doing? It's great to see all of you here. Thank you for coming. And hopefully today we can teach you about building a website with Convertri. So I'll just do the quick sound and screen check actually while we've got people still joining. So can everyone see my screen okay? If you could just let me know in the chat, and if you can hear me fine as well, just so we can kick things off without any technical problems. That's always a good way to start. Perfect. Okay, great. I can see a lot of you in the chat letting me know. Thank you very much. That is much appreciated. Right, okay, so let's get things started then. We won't jump in straight away. I'll just do the quick introductions first before we start the webinar. So my name is Dan, and I'll be talking you through the webinar today. I'm going to be hopefully teaching you about how to build websites in Convertri. Now, this is the team here at Convertri. You'll find near enough everyone here. We do have a few new arrivals of late though, so we need to get this updated. But this is me, Dan, just to put a face to my name. And I'm sure many of you will have come across me at the start, and maybe some of you have come across me in the Facebook group or in the support desk. But if not, then it is great to meet you, and hopefully you will find me a very useful person here at Convertri. That's how I like to think of myself anyway. So hopefully we can teach you some things today. Okay, so the way it's going to work then today is we're going to start off with a by showing you guys basically how to do sort of the key things in Convertri that will help you get your website set up. So we're going to use a Convertri template for that. Once we've gone through that and we've shown you those key elements of site building in Convertri, I'm going to start from scratch with a completely new page, and we're going to build a simple 3-page site. And hopefully that will show you how easy it is to use Convertri to build simple websites. Because we know that building websites can be quite a complicated task, so it is quite overwhelming, and I can understand why some of you might be a little bit overwhelmed at the thought of that. So hopefully this will put your mind at ease. Now, before we jump in, if I could just ask how comfortable you guys feel with Convertri. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd just like to see how comfortable the audience feels. So with 1 being your beginner and a 10 being you're an expert, it's good to get a nice idea of how everyone feels about Convertri. So if you could just let me know in the chat, that would be perfect. Okay, cool. I can see a lot of 5s, some 8s, a couple 6s, some 2s, 7s. A nice good variety here. That's what we like to see. Excellent. Okay, so we'll kick things off now then. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to put them in the chat. If you do have questions about anything wider, Convertri related, then if you could save those at the end, that would be brilliant, just so we can keep things flowing nice and smoothly. And we'll cover a more general Q&A session at the end. If there's anything about what I'm doing on screen that you're not sure about, be sure to ask me and I'll be able to hopefully clarify that for you. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to use my Convertri templates here to show you first how to link pages together in Convertri. So I'm going to go into my home page, and the site I'm using is one of our templates. It's a photography site, so you can see here on screen. It's a beautifully designed template, and if you look at the top, we've got our menu here, and this is what we can use to link our pages together, and that is one way we can do that in Convertri. Now, to do this and to use the menu feature to do so, if we drag that on, what we need to do is we actually need to have our pages published. So you can see here, this is the menu element. At the moment, we've got our text elements here, but we can use the menu element instead to get the same effect. So if we open our element properties up, and we go into our menu items, we can add these items to the list as well. So we can go home, portfolio, and then let's just keep a about page as well, and a contact page. Now you can see here we've got a message that says the link has not been set. Now this is because we haven't added a link into our menu element. So to do this, we need to click the drop down arrow and make sure the item type is set to link. You'll have a few options here, so you'll have internal link and submenu. The link option is going to allow you to link this item to another page. Now, the main thing you need to know here is that you have to have your pages published before you can add the link, because of course at the moment this page isn't published yet, so we don't have a URL to put it in. So what we're going to do is we're going to publish the page. I'm going to get rid of the text elements here, as we're going to be using the menu element instead. And it's not to say that you can't use a text element to link to another page, and that is something that I'm going to show you as well. But the menu element is just a more simple way to do it, because it's basically pre-built the menu for you. You don't have to add them separately, like I just deleted them separately. You don't have to line them up together. It's all designed for you. So I'm going to publish this page, and I'm just going to call it my photo home, like so. And I'm now going to exit my page, and I'm going to go into my about page. And similarly, I'm going to delete the menu that's been made with text elements. And instead, I'm going to add my own menu element, like so. And then I just need to add my items. And now what I can do is I can add my link into the link box. So I've got my URL, which is website.webinar.com.convertri.com/photo home. And when I save this and publish the page, and again, I need to publish this to a URL. So I'm going to go photo about. As you can see there, it added into where our page will be available at. If I hit publish, if I now view the page and click home, you'll see it will take me to my home page. Now, this is perfect. That's how we want our navigation bar to work. So you can see that's one way to link your pages together. However, you'll notice that we don't have the option now to go back to our other page because we haven't completed the menu on this home page. And that's why it's important first to publish all of your pages. So you've got each URL and you can then add it into each one of the items in the link section. Now, Thomas, I can see, has asked, can you create one menu, save it, and publish it on each page so you don't have to do it on each page? And that is something that you can definitely do in Convertri. I'll show you how to do that in a little while. First, I just want to show you how to use the menu and how you can add links into the items to get it to work. So we will cover that, don't worry. And it is a great way to save time when building sites. And it's definitely how I'd recommend you do it. But at the moment, I just want to, get the ground rules, get the sort of foundations out of the way so we know how to add links into our menu. So you can see that we know how to do that there now. So that is one way to link your sites together. You can use the menu element. Now, another way you can do that is actually by using a button and changing the mode from sign up to link. So let's say we've got our about page here and we want to have a link to our contact page. Now, remember, we need to make sure our contact page is published first. You can see it is published and it's published at /contact, so that's fine. So if I go into my about page, I might want to add a button on this page that once someone has scrolled down to, say, the end of the page, they don't have to scroll all the way back up to the navigation bar in order to contact me. So what I can do is in form elements, I can use the submit button, drag it at the bottom, like so. I can use my alignment tools to put it to the middle of the page. And then in the element properties, I can change the mode from sign up to link. Once I've done that, again, just like with the menu, you'll see it's pretty much the same principle. I can add my URL /contact. And from here, I can change the label. So I could have something like get in touch. I can even change the style. So if I want the font to be different, like so. And I can even change the background color as well, so that it suits my my site a little bit more. So you can see we've got the black there, like so. Now if I save the page and publish it again, if we go back to our About page, the live version, you can see we've still got that link to the home in the menu, but we've now got another way of getting to another page, and that is through this button. We click that, we're now on the contact page. So you can see there's two different ways there of linking pages together. Now there is a third and final way, and that is using hyperlinks on text. So for example, you might have a big bit of text here, and in part of the text, you might want one piece of the text to actually take the user to another page. So for example, let's take this bit here. You can see we've got so get in touch. Now we might want this page to, this piece of text to go straight to the contact page if it's clicked on. It's quite a nice way if your prospect is reading something and they see the little underline, then they'll be prompted to click on it. So if we hyperlink it using this chain link icon here, we can again type in our link, and you can see that the link box is pretty much the same across the board. So we don't have to worry about applying it differently for different versions. As long as we know the different ways, it's simply just about adding your link in here. And again, that's why it's so important to have your pages published before you try and link them together. If you want to have it open in a new tab, that's completely fine. That will then keep the main page that they were on open as well. So if you want to turn that on, that is perfectly fine. So we'll hit save. You can see now we've got this underline here. And if we publish it, and view the page, you can see this is now effectively just this piece of text that we highlighted is the hyperlink. So any of the other bits of text aren't going to do anything. As soon as we go to the get in touch, we can click that and it will open the get in touch, the contact page for us. Okay, so they're the three ways of linking your pages together by using elements on the page. You can, of course, have like a form redirect to a thank you page, but that isn't really what we're looking at here when we're talking about websites. So what I'm going to show you now is back to Thomas's question about how to do this and to save time. And what I need to do before I do that is just go into all my pages and make sure that my header is clear, because what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to save and create a shared header. And what that means is I can create a header once and apply it to all of my pages so that I don't have to apply it to each and every one. Now to do that, again, I'm going to, as I say, delete the header. I'm going to save it and I'm going to republish the page. And that's just making sure that I've got the up-to-date version of it. And I'm going to need to do this for all of my pages. And I also need to make sure that they're all published. And that's because I'm going to be adding the links into the menu in the shared header modal, and I want to make sure I can do that for each and every one. I can see a question from Herek who's asking, when you click publish, do you still need to click save? You don't need to, it's just a force of habit that I have, just so I know my work's being saved. Okay, so we're going to call this one, I think this was our portfolio page, so we'll call this photo portfolio, like so. And lastly, our contact page. Yeah, the footer will work the exact same way, Thomas. So if you want to have, say, a privacy policy link on all of your pages, but you don't want to add it to each one, what I'm about to show you now will work exactly the same for that as well. And it's something that we'll be showing you in the live build as well that I do from scratch. Okay, so you can see on all of our pages now, the header that we had in there is gone. So we now need to go to our shared header and footer menu. So if we go down the left, you can see header and footer, and we're in the master header section here. So if we click edit, this will open up the master header editor, and this is going to allow us to create a header for all of our pages in our funnel. So this is our header canvas, where the pink line is where it ends. So we want to make it about this size. Then we're going to start designing. So we can add a panel to contain all of the elements. We can make it full width and make the size up to where we want it. Let's say about here. And we can add our text. So we can just add something like photography site. Obviously, this is where you would have your own your title for your site. So we'll just choose a font. I can't remember what the font it was that was using on the page itself, but it's not going to make too much difference here. And once we've got that text on here, we can resize it so it's within the panel. And finally, we can add our menu. Now you can see the background is slightly different, so we can change the background on the panel instead to match the menu background. And now we can go about creating the menu. So we want our 4 pages. We want home. We want contact or about we'll have first, then contact, and lastly portfolio. And now we're going to add the links for each one. So on the home page, we're going to have our home link. And I've just pasted it in there. And I'm just going to make sure I haven't got any duplication. So you can see that's my link. Same for the about. Same for the contact, which I think didn't have the photo bit, it just had contact. And finally for the portfolio as well. So now we've got all our links set up, our menu is going to be working. I'm just going to change the style of it. You do have styling options for the menu. As you can see here, we've got menu properties. We do have some custom skins that we've made, but you can design your own as well. So I'm just going to change the font so that it matches the page a little bit more. We don't want it to be too big, just something that's going to be nice and easy to see. Like so. And then we can trim off the unused space like so. Change the header so it matches the size of the panel, and then click save. Now once we've saved this, you can see we've got it all set up and the header size is perfectly fine. We can exit out of our shared header, and now all we need to do is go back to each of our pages and enable the header so that it applies it to that page. So we're going to open our editor, go to the page menu, and then in headers and footers, we're going to turn on the header like so. Now we can bring up the page by clicking the panel here and adding remove white space above. That will snap it up to the header. We can publish that. And then we just need to do the same thing for each of the pages. And you can see here how it's saving you a lot of time because you don't have to add the menu to each page. All you're doing is creating it once in the shared header and then going to your each page and enabling it so that it is published. And while we're doing this, I'll just try and get to a couple of the questions in the chat that I can see have been asked. Cherry's asked, does Convertri create a sitemap? It does indeed. It does create a sitemap for your websites. Ian's asking, can you use other URLs? So for links to other site pages. So I assume you mean to pages that aren't built in Convertri. If that is what you're asking, then yeah, you can do that. As long as you've got a working URL, you can add it into the menu, into the link box. Any of the ways I just showed you, it doesn't have to be a Convertri URL. It can be any site you want. So if you just wanted to put it to, say, google.com, it would still work as long as it's a valid URL. Okay, so all of these are published now. So when we go to view the page, we should be able to navigate around our website. Let's see if we can do that. So we're on the home page now. We can go to the About page. We can go from About to Contact. If we want to go back to Home, we can do that. And if we want to go to Portfolio, we can do the same. So you can see now we've got a completely linked up website. And all we've had to do is create the menu once in the shared header and add the links once, and then go in and turn it on. And that is obviously really useful and really time saving. So are there any questions on the menu element at all, or the shared header, how linking pages works in Convertri, as I know it is quite an important part of building out a website? Yeah, so a couple of questions there about a drop-down menu within the menu itself. That is perfectly understandable to want that. We do have that option. All you need to do is go back to your menu, wherever it is in your shared header. If you go to menu items, you can change the item type from link to submenu. So let's say we wanted to add one. If I click create, it will add another item. You can see it's added it at the bottom there, so we just need to extend this out a bit, like so. And let's just say we call this submenu, so we can see how big it is, like so. And if we change this from link to submenu, you'll see the little drop down will appear. I can then add items in my submenu, and again we've now got the same modal that we had for the main menu. So let's just say this was like a social media one. We might have a Twitter option, we might have Facebook, we might have like a LinkedIn or something like that. And once you've done that, you can then again pick whether you want the link or the internal link. So you don't have the option to submenu twice, but you will have the option to do a link in there. If you make a change to the header, you will need to republish it on every page. However, we have actually got a new feature that has been released in the last week. It was actually released on Tuesday. And what that allows you to do is republish all the already published pages in your funnel. So I've made that change on the header. I don't want to have to go into each page separately and republish it. So instead, I just click the republish button here, republish all published pages. It might take a moment because it's doing a few things at once. Once it's republished though, all of these pages will have that updated shared header. And as you can see, we've got that successfully done. Now, it didn't update the privacy policy because we hadn't already published it. Okay, and yeah, it is definitely a huge saving, Ian. I'm so glad that's in the app now. Okay, so last question on the menus then. I can see Herrick's asked what an internal link is, and it is a good thing to cover, so I will go over that quickly. And it's something that's quite useful if you're building websites as well, because it adds a little bit of depth to your pages. So let's say we wanted to add a internal link to one of these menu items. So you can edit, I should say as well, the header, the master header within a page itself, and that will update across all pages. Again, you'll need to republish all of them, but it will update across all of them. So you can edit it from one page. You don't have to go into the master header editor each time. So let's just say we're going to change the contact to an internal link, and we want that internal link to go to the bottom of our page, which has a button to say contact. what we'll do is we'll add a contact button. You can see we've got one here on the page already. In order for us to make the internal link work, we need to name the element first. So go to element properties, general properties, we'll give it our name, which is internal link, and we'll hit save like so. Then we need to go back to the top, go back to our menu, and then in the element properties and the menu items under contact, internal link, this will now appear. You can see internal link. We'll click save. We'll republish that, and I'll show you how the internal link works now. Essentially what it's going to do is when you click contact, it will scroll you down to that section of the page. So you can see here, scrolls you down, and then you can use the contact button as you wish. So that is a useful feature as well for your sites. Now, the next thing I want to show you is how to add a privacy policy to your page. It's quite an important part of building a site, and there are a few ways to do it. So I think it's worth covering. Again, you can do this in the shared header if you want to, so that you have it applied to all of your pages, but I'm just going to show you it in the page editor for now. So one way to do it is to use the hyperlink like I showed you at the start, and that is if you have your privacy policy perhaps on another page. Maybe it's a page you've built in Convertri where you've added all the text to, or maybe it's an external page and you're sharing a privacy policy with another person. Maybe it's a company one and you're just building a page for that company, for example. So you just add your link in as we did with the others. Let's just say I'm going to go to convertri.com's privacy policy. And just like that, I've now got my link to privacy policy working. Now you need to make sure you've got opening a new tab on if you do want to link it to using a hyperlink, just so your main page stays open in the background. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it would be to actually have it as a button. So instead of having it as a piece of text, you can use a submit button. You can obviously style it so that it looks like it's just part of the footer. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So we'll do the styling first. So as you can see, that's not obvious now that that's a button. It still looks like a piece of text. So if we now change the mode to to download, you can add the file itself into the button, sorry. So what you can do is select one from your folder, and what will happen then is when someone clicks on that, they'll be downloading your privacy policy. And I'll show you how that works now, because it is a little bit different to what we've seen in the past. The third and final way to do that would be to use the link option, which again is going to be the same pretty much as the hyperlink, as the menu links, what we've covered already. Okay, so if we publish this now, we'll see that our submit button is going to act as our privacy policy download. And just like that, it's going to open the file. This is just my mock-up privacy policy that I built for this. For some reason, the formatting has gone quite strange, but we've got essentially a PDF here that we've added to a button so that someone can open it from a button click rather than going to another website. Okay, so that is our privacy policies covered. The last thing I'm going to show you before we jump into the build from scratch is how to use the contact form feature in Convertri and how you can set that up on a page so that you can receive inquiries on your website and then reply to them using your own personal email. So this isn't about forms and an autoresponder. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about using Convertri's in-house contact form feature. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my contact page, as that's where I want to set this up. And you can see I've got a contact form built out here, which has a few form fields. So I've got a name form field, I've got an email, phone number, your message, and then the submit button, which will need to be set to sign up. So what you're going to need to do is go to forms, and then instead of choosing autoresponders, webinars, API, you need to click email. Now here you'll have the option to turn on email notifications. You'll need to do this, and you'll then need to select an email address that you've set up in your account. Now I'll show you how to do that now. So to do that, you need to go back to your account dashboard. and you need to go to email form configuration and then manage emails. And here you can add a number of emails that you want available to receive emails on contact form submission for your accounts. You can see I've got 2 here. I'm not going to add another one, but if you wanted to add multiple, you could. So if you had multiple clients that you're building a site for, you could add their emails here and select which one you needed to use for which page you were building. So we'll go back to our page now and we'll set that up, and I'll show you what it looks like at the actual receiving end as well, and how you can go about replying to those. So again, we'll go back to forms, make sure we've got email notifications turned on, and then email addresses. And then we just need to add our thank you page URL. So I've just got mine set to convertri.com for the example. But if you had a thank you page in your website, or if you wanted to send them back to your home page, that's where you would add that. So we'll click done and we'll republish the page, and we'll show you how that works. So Dave's asking, is the multiple emails pro or agency? I believe it's a pro feature. So if you've got a pro account, it should be available to you. However, I'm not 100% sure. So it's worth double checking in your account and just seeing what level you are, if you know which subscription level you are. If you're not sure, you can email us at support@convertri.com. So I'm going to view the page now, and I'm going to submit the form. I'm not actually going to submit it on my laptop, as I don't think it will come through, because I've already viewed the page on my IP address. So I'm going to use my phone quickly. So you aren't going to see the form submission, but what I will be able to show you is actually the final outcome of that. So if you just give me a moment to submit this. And then we'll show you how it works. So I'm just going to put some dummy information in there. And send it off. So that's now been submitted, and I should shortly be receiving an email to my email address that I set up. So if I go to my personal emails, you can see here 1632, we've got our email, and this is our form submission. So I've just typed this out now. Hey everyone, 01222, and my email. And what this is what your prospect's form submission would actually look like. So as you can see it here, it's got the full name, the email, the phone number, and the notes. And then what you would do to reply to this, you wouldn't actually click reply in the email. You would take the email out of here and create a new email for yourself. If you go about it by replying to the email, you're actually going to reply to Convertri support. So it's important to remember that you need to take the prospect's email out and create a new email. Now, of course, there are other ways to manage contact emails. You might have an autoresponder set up, which is perfectly fine. But in terms of using the contact form feature, this is how it works. Okay, now the last thing I wanted to show you on the template page is just how to add a link to an image so that you can use it for social share icons. So if we go to our images, I'm just going to add like my Facebook icon, so you can see here. And if I add this to my page, I might want to add this at the top. Let's say I wanted to have it here, or even next to our get in touch. I can then add a link straight into my image so that when someone clicks on it, it takes them to that page. So if we go link, again, it's the same modal. We just need to add it in here. So let's just say we wanted facebook.com. And if we publish that, it will work and open Facebook. So that is another way to get people onto other pages with images, or if you want it to external pages, just having a Facebook logo like that is a great way to do it. And as you can see, that will open up Facebook for you. Okay, so we've gone through the templates and gone through the useful things I think we're going to be using on our site build. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and answer a few of the questions that have come through in the chat. I can see quite a lot of them coming through. So I want to make sure we've got most of those answered before we move on. And then, of course, as I said, I will get to them all before the end. We do have a Q&A session at the end. So try and keep the questions relevant to what's going on the screen, just so we can keep it moving nice and smoothly. So, Herrick, the email gathered from the contact form won't be stored in your autoresponder if you haven't set up an autoresponder as well. You won't be able to set up the autoresponder. You'll need to set up the autoresponder as well to collect the information. If you're just using the contact form, it will only be going to your email like I showed you there. So you have to set up an API autoresponder in order to collect the information and store it there. That is a perfectly fine way to do it, but the contact form is a great way to collect inquiries on a website. Yeah, Ian's asking about using a drop down. I can see we've got questions about some different form fields, so I can show you how to do that now. If you go to the elements tray on the left hand side, I'm just making space. You can see here we've got form elements. Here you'll find all of the different element options for form fields. So you've got a drop down option here, which you can add. You can add custom, and then you can add an option name. So let's use your example there, Ian. So he's asking about pets. So what pet do you have? And then we can add options. So we could add cat, could add dog, and we could add tortoise. I see that there as well. And then when a prospect comes to the page, we'll republish it. They'll be able to choose their option and submit it, and that data will get passed on. So you do have the option to move away from the more basic ones like name and email. You can see that's now configured, and it will go through the submission as well. And I'm just scrolling back through the questions now. Yeah, Jane, the shared header will work exactly the same as the shared footer. It's basically in the exact same place, header and footer on the left once you're in your funnel, and then we've got the master footer menu here, and that will open the same exact canvas as the header one, and it works in exactly the same way. Yeah, Ryan, regarding internal links, instead of it taking you to a different page, it takes you to a specific point on the page. You're absolutely right. So like I showed you with that contact internal link, it scrolls you down to another part of the page. Okay, so we're going to go on to our live build now, and we're going to build out it from scratch. So I'm going to create a new funnel so that we have a new shared header and footer, and that will show you the process pretty much from start to finish. So we'll go into create a new funnel, create one from scratch, and I'm going to be building a simple 3-page website in the gym niche. So we'll go gym website, and I'll just select my website webinar domain. Of course, you could have a custom domain here if you've purchased one and set it up already. That is perfectly okay. I've just got a .convertri.com subdomain for this webinar. So I'm going to go to new page, and we of course are creating a page from scratch, and I'm going to call this one my home page. I'm going to then go to another new page, create it from scratch, and go about. And lastly, I'm going to create a page from scratch for my contact page. And the reason I'm doing it like this It's because I want to go and publish all my pages so I can get them linked together straight away. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to Home. I'm going to hit Publish and go Gym Home. And then we'll go Gym About. And lastly, we'll go Gym Contact. So now I've got my 3 pages published. They are just blank pages at the moment, but I'm doing that because I want to get the menu set up nice and early so I can navigate around my pages. So let's go into our header and footer and create our master header for this page. We'll have our panel. And I'm going to make it full width. And I'm going to add my text like so. And then I'm just going to pick a nice big font that I like for my website style. So I'll go Passion 1. Like so, and this is going to act as my logo. I haven't got a logo for the site. And I'm going to give this the color white because I want my panel to be like a marble, dark grey, like a granite, sorry, I should say. Like so. Now I'm going to add my menu. And if you're wondering how I'm going to get the color to be the same, if I go into the element properties into the background, it will remember the last color that I've selected. And you might be thinking that my menu items aren't going to look right, but I can get the menu properties to be the same as well. So now I can add the items in. And we've only got the 3, Home, About, and Contact. So we can delete the last one. We can set up our links. And I'm just going to copy and paste this into the rest of them. Like so. And then lastly, I'm just going to edit my menu style. So I want the text color to be white as well. And I'm going to find a similarly bold font that people are able to see. So I quite like that one for my menu. And I'll put it the size up as well. So it's nice and obvious. So we've got our header set up already, and that's going to be the crux of our website. I just want to get rid of this border. We'll take that down to 0, like so. And Ryan's asking, can you remind me what the blue grid lines represent again? Yeah, so you can see the blue grid lines here. This is essentially just a safe zone. So you'll see I've got mine outside of it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference to the actual page itself. Like the blue line doesn't cut it off. But what this means is this is the safe zone for most monitors where everything will be displayed. Now, this was set up back in 2016, so the average screen size has increased since. If you go to display and then the guideline width, you can change that by using the arrows. So if you wanted to have like a 1280 one, you could set it to that so that you know that the width you're working in is that many pixels wide, like so. But if you want the default ones, you can just use that button as well. So we'll hit save. And we'll go back into our pages and turn on our shared header. And we're going to make sure we move the header up to the end of the panel, publish it. And do the same thing for our other pages. Okay, so we've got our menu, our navigation menu on all of our pages now, which is perfect. So we don't have to worry about linking them together anymore. We can focus on the build of the page. So let's start with our home page. I'm going to go for, as I said, it's a gym niche. So we're going to go for a nice sort of gritty look, nothing too sinister, but nothing too light as well. It's going to be something that will suit the theme. So we'll add some nice images that suit that as well. And we'll make this full width like so. And this is a great way to get some cool sections, is to use full width images. So you can see that here. What I'm going to do now is add a panel over the top of this to overlay the image. And that will allow me to add some text over the top and make sure it can be read. So what I'm doing here is I'm changing the background color to like a darker color. But then I'm going to change the opacity so the image can still be seen, but I'll be able to add text over the top so that it is actually readable as well. Now I've got all my text ready, I've got all my copy ready in a document, so I don't need to worry about thinking about that on the spot. Before I continue, I'm going to set my text styles up in the page settings. So if I go to page, default text styles, I can set my paragraph text to be the same as what my menu was, so that we've got a consistency throughout the page, or I might want that as my heading instead actually. So we'll go for the same one, about size 30, and we'll change the color to white. Now when you're setting up these text styles, it doesn't mean they're locked for the whole page. You can change them for individual text elements, but it's going to save you some time because you're not going to have to set this up each time you add a text element. This will now be the default text when you add text elements. So I've got my heading 1. I'm going to add my element in. One thing to do which is useful is to turn on the element outlines. Go to display and element outlines, and that will show you where each element is on the page. So I add my text. You can see now it's set to Archivo. If I want to change it to my heading type, I just click More and Heading. And in here, I can add my text. Like so. Now I might want to make this a little bit bigger. Now it's actually on my page and I can sort of assess that more. That is absolutely fine. As I said, you can make edits to that as well. Like so. We can use our alignment tools, which is this one here, to align anything we want to the page center so that it's nice and symmetrical. You can't set up the text settings in the master header or master footer. That will only be specific to the header. It won't apply to the page itself. That is a separate page setting. And yeah, you would have to recreate a different footer. You wouldn't be able to copy and paste the master header into the master footer, unfortunately, as they again don't link together like that. You'd have to create separate ones. Okay, so I'm going to reduce the image slightly, like so. But we've now got a nice start to our site. And I'm actually going to, on reflection, change the background panel of this as well. And again, this just shows that you can make changes to your header while you're doing it. It doesn't matter because you can, of course, update it with the Republish All feature. So that is not a problem. And you can see here, I'm just changing so that it matches up. So I'll save that. And then what I want to do is make sure I'm editing my main page again. And I'm just going to get some text about my gym that I'm now building the website for into the page so that people can understand what it is they are looking at. So we'll add our text box, add our text, which as I say, I'm copying from a text document. And we'll have it roughly on the left here. We're going to increase the size slightly. And you can see the freedom when you're designing pages in Convertri. You know, you're not locked to anything. It's great the drag and drop editor allows you to do that. And then I'm going to add a couple more images as well. And you don't have to be a designer to make a website page in Convertri, because you can see how fluent the designer, the builder is, that you can just place things where you want them. And you don't have to be worried about having anything too fancy on your page. Like so. I've got a nice piece of text to the left, and then we're going to get the images on the right. Like so. And as I say, you can edit individual text elements. You don't have to be stuck to that, the default text styles, but it is definitely better to set that up when you are starting out your page. Okay, the next thing I want to get is a really important part of a site, and it's some testimonials. So I'm going to add a new section for this. And I'm going to add my testimonials in now. And the reason this is important is because it's a great way to show off your services. And if you've got any reviews, anything like that, I really would recommend getting them on your page. So you can see I'm struggling there to find the exact color that I've got here in my header. So what I can do is I can take the RGB values from the background as 36, 36, 36, copy them, and then go back to my main page. And I can actually add them in like so. And that will snap onto the exact color. So that's a really useful tool, is using the RGB values there. Again, I want this one to be a heading. And then I can add my text again, just like we did above with our main text. And I'm going to change this to be white. Now it's useful if you've got an image for your testimonials. In this case, I haven't got one, and that isn't a problem, but it just does add some authenticity to them. So if you can get images, that is always a good way to go as well. If you want to clone the elements to save you time in adding them, you can do that. And then replace the text like so. Yeah, Sean's asking if you can make an image into a circle shape. similar to my photo on the website, you can do that. The website is actually built using Convertri, for those of you who didn't know. And the way we do that is by using the border and just adding a border width of 0, but making the border radius go something like this. You can see it's a rather wide photo, so you won't get the exact circle option there. But if we move that into the middle, you can see it goes into more of a circle. So if you had an exact square photo, it would work like that. So you don't need to worry about cropping those in Photoshop or anything like that. You can do that all in Convertri. I'm going to just add my last testimonial in here. And you may be thinking, what if I want all these things, on the same page in a maybe a different part of the page, but still on that same page? And that is a really valid question when you're building out websites, because of course you might not want to add your testimonials and type them out each time, but you can use our clone feature to save time and do that. And you can also save things as collections. And those are two things that I'm going to show you that are really important to building out websites. So we'll show you that in a moment. The one thing that I want to do before I do that is add my privacy policy at the bottom. So instead of adding it to this page here, I'm going to go down to back to my master footer. And I'm going to make one that just has a privacy policy link, nothing too fancy, just so we can add a privacy policy in there. So again, I'm adding the panel, same principle as the header. I'll change the background. We had it to 36, like so. And I'm just going to add my text element, and you'll see here that the text styles are different. You don't have the option to set them up in the master header or the master footer, so you will need to change those manually, but it is only the once you're changing it, because of course it will apply to all your different pages. So I'm going to add my privacy policy. And the way I want it for this page is just to hyperlink it. So I'm going to make it go into the middle. I'm going to highlight the text and use the hyperlink. And I'm just going to link it out to Convertri's privacy policy for this example. And then again, we want it to open in a new tab like so. And we'll middle align the text as well, which is another thing you can do to make things look nice. And middle align the element. And then we'll just reduce the gap at the bottom of the footer. We'll hit save and we'll add it to each page. Now we'll add it to our home page first. And then when we go to build out the other two pages, we'll add it there as well. So you can see you don't have to do things in awkward orders. You can do them as you like, but we'll add the footer like so. And you can see it's been added there at the bottom. Now I'm actually going to make a change again to the footer on the page. Again, that's not a problem. It's perfectly fine to do that because I want it to be a lighter color so that it contrasts that panel. So we'll go for that gray, which means we need to change this text color to the gray like so. And then I'm just going to add a background panel onto this section of the page so that it's contained within it. Like so. So we've got our home page, as you can see there. We could do with some images here for testimonials, but as I said, it's not something I've got for this example, but if you have got them, it would be really useful to get them on the page because it just adds a little bit of authenticity, I think, to it. The webinar is being recorded, Chuck, so there will be a replay posted probably early next week. So if you want to check out the replay, then you'll be able to do so. Yeah, so you can save an entire row to use again. As I was mentioning about collections, that's one thing that I wanted to show you. So what I'm going to do is use this testimonials example as it's something that I want on each of my pages. So I'm going to go to element properties. I'm going to go to general and then create collection. And here I can save it in my gym section and I can just call this testimonials. And what this allows me to do is on my other pages, add this exact banner to the pages. So I'm going to give it a quick republish. I'm happy with my home page now. And this is going to save me a bit of time in the about page because I can add that testimonial to it straight away. So I'm going to build out the about page now. Again, I'm going to start off by adding a panel to just contain the section, like so. And then I'm going to add a couple images. I'm going to add an image that I saved as a collection earlier. And then I'll resize that. And next to that, I can add my About Us text, which again, I've got stored already, so I don't need to worry about thinking up that on the spot. And you can see the page styles will need to be changed again for each page. So I'm going to give that to Archivo, and then the heading will need to be Archivo Black. So we're going to increase the font size a little bit, similar to how we did with the other page. And then we'll add another text element that acts as our heading here, so we can have something that's just making sure people know what they are reading about. Next section, I'm going to give, now we're on the About page, we want to give a little bit more information to our prospects. So we're going to add another panel. And I did see someone earlier asking about mobile, and it is important to have a page, of course, that works well on mobile. And that is why I'm adding these panels for each of my sections, because it's going to allow Convertri to contain the elements well, so that when we want to go to our mobile page, it's pretty much built out for us as we like it. So we'll show you the mobile version at the end. And I'll explain how that works and why using panels in this way actually allows you to create a page that mobilizes well. And I can see Sean's asking there, can background panels be a video? Yeah, we do have a background video element. It's something I'll show you after the website's been built, as it's a bit of an extra. So again, I'm going to add my text. This time I'm going to make sure it's the white color so that we can see it easily. And it hasn't applied it, so I can highlight that and select it here. That's no problem. And then again, we can up the size. We'll add another heading here. It's important, I think, when you're building websites to separate your sections, give them headings, make sure people aren't confused and they don't think that it's one block text. That's always a good piece of advice. If you do end up just having one block text, it's going to be quite tedious to read. So breaking it up like this, breaking it up with different panels, different colors, it makes it a bit more manageable for you. And then again, we're just going to add some images. On the left, it's fine to use the same images, I find, as well on different pages. You know, you don't have to apply loads of different images to each of your pages. As long as you've got different information, then your prospects aren't going to be too concerned about that. So what we're actually going to add instead of these images is a nice image carousel. So if we go to more elements and here, we can add our carousel like so. And what that gives is a bit of more dynamic aspect to the page. We're going to move these over like so. We can add our images here, selecting our files. It will open the image gallery and we can add them in. And what this does is it just means that your page isn't looking so still all the time. It's got this auto rotation carousel, which we've got as an element here for Pro members again. And I'll show you how this works on the live page, of course, once we've got the website built out and completed. Couple of carousel properties. We want the images cropped fine, 3 images at once, 1 turn rate, and we'll have the auto rotate speed at 2 seconds. So we'll save our page now, and we want to now add our testimonials. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to collections. In our gym folder, you can see here we've got our testimonials banner that I can add to my page, and that has been added completely for us. We haven't had to do any other work for that, and I can still edit it as well if I want to. So if I want to change the background color a little bit, I can do that, no problem. And I can then change the text to match as well. So what you're seeing here, guys, is how you have pretty much full customization on different pages. Even though it's the same banner, you still have the option to make changes to it so that it suits the page you're on. You might have different color schemes for different sections on the page. That is absolutely expected, and that's why we want you to have the option to edit that like so. So I need to turn on my footer, but before I do that, as this is my about page, I want to give them another option here to reach out to us and get in touch. So what I'm going to do is, just like we showed you at the start, I'm going to add another panel, and this one is going to include a button which is going to go direct to the contact form. So we'll use form elements, submit button, and we can style this out so it doesn't look out of place. We can give the label contact us. Make sure we've got the mode to link, remember, and then we just add our link. And as you can see, this is why it's so important to have your links and your pages published first, because you can build your page, and if you feel like you want to add an extra, then that's fine, you can do that. You don't need to worry about having to wait until the end and publishing at the end. That's why I always prefer to have that first. And then we're just going to change the background color. And we'll need to change the text color as well so that you can actually see the call to action. Okay, so saving it again, I'm just saving out of habit. And if I now turn on my footer, you can see that the footer has come to the bottom where it's expected, and we've now got our about page finished. So I'll save that and republish. And before I go on to the last page, which is our contact page, I'm just going to look at the mobile version. As you can see, it's built out pretty much as we'd expect, and we've got a little bit of a gap here because our testimonial has not been added correctly, as you can see here. And it's because it's below the edge of the editor, so we need to make sure that we've got that sorted. So if we go back to mobile, you can see it's here. I'm not sure why the text isn't appearing actually. It may be something that we'll need to look at after this, but what I'm going to talk about now quickly is mobile and mobile pages. And it's important to use panels, because by doing that, you're telling Convertri where you want things to appear on mobile. So you can see, for the most part, our page is built out how we'd like it. Because I've used a panel, it knows that these 3 elements are contained together, so they want to be displayed together. So Convertri then knows to display them in the order they've been added within the panel. A few things to note about the mobile is the menu element appears as a hamburger menu in mobile. So if someone clicks on that, it will open the menu up. But because of the sizing, it won't have it all across the top like so. I can see a question here that Clarence has asked about the collection. If you update it, does it auto update? It doesn't auto update, so this is specific to this page. If I go back into another page and add the collection, it won't update here. I can save it again as another collection, but it won't auto update. So we'll publish that now. And we'll go back to our funnel and into our final page, which is our contact page. And this is where we're going to have our contact form. So we're going to have a pretty simple contact page. We don't want anything too overwhelming for our prospects. We want to make sure it's nice and simple. Chuck said he's heading off, so it was nice to see you, Chuck. You're very welcome. Hopefully you can catch up the bit you missed on the replay. And anyone else that has any arrangements, I know we're running a little bit over time, but we do want to go through things in depth. So that's why we're taking it nice and smooth and slow. So we're changing our styles again. And all we're going to do in this case is have one panel. And then we're just going to have our contact form here. So we'll have our text, which we want to be our heading. We'll center that, and then we'll center align the element. And what we're going to do is actually add an image in just to give the page a little bit of a different feel. So we'll add our bodybuilder and essentially use this as like a background image. So we'll make that full width. We'll drag this down so it's actually all in view. We can use our reordering tools to send it backwards. And then like we did on our first page, we can make the background opaque so that you can still see the image, but the text is readable like so. And then what we're going to have here is just our form. So to do that, we're going to build out our form using a panel. And we'll have it on the right here. We'll have it actually in the middle like so. Make sure the background is the color we want, so we'll go for white. And then we're just going to add our form onto the page. So simple as having a bit of text for each element. So we'll have a nice call to action, get in touch with us. Something like, if you're interested in booking a session, fill out the form below and we'll be in contact with you as soon as possible. And we're going to make this text a little bit bigger and this text even bigger still. And then we're going to middle align this and middle align this like so. We're then going to add our form elements. So we're just going to have our first name, email. Of course, we need email so that we can get back in touch with them. And then we're going to have a text input. And we'll need to change the placeholder text from email to details. Or we'll have your message. And then we'll give them the option of a drop down as well. So if they want to book a class, if they want to make an inquiry, they can add any message into the text box here. If they want to book a specific class, we'll give them the drop-down option, and we'll give them the option of, not sure as well, so that they can make a decision. So option name, class type, and we'll add a few classes. Like so. And then of course we're going to need our submit button. Like so. Remember, we want to have the mode on sign up, and we want the background color to match our form. So we're going to give it that 36, 36, 36. And then we're just going to make the font size a little bit bigger, so it's nice and bold. You don't want it too big. About there is perfect. Okay, and I can see we've got a question from Ryan. He's asking how I'm moving up the elements at the same time. What I'm doing there is I'm holding shift and then just dragging, and that moves the elements up and down at the same time if they're below one another. So as you can see here, all the elements below it, their start point is below this first name element. So similarly, if I select this one and hold shift, it will move all of those around as well. Okay, so now I need to set up my form. So if I go to forms, to email, turn on email notifications, got my thank you page URL, which I'm going to just put as my home page. It's probably a better idea to actually have a thank you page for the website, but I am a bit conscious of time now. I do want to get to some more questions, so I'm just going to use that about page, that home page there that we've got. And finally, just add my privacy policy. So I'll save and publish this. And we're now going to have a full working website. You can see it's a pretty simple 3-page website. Nothing too special design-wise either. But you can see how simply it is to put something like that together in Convertri. We've gone through that in about 30 to 40 minutes. And it's just a great way to show you guys how to do that live. I thought it'd be a really useful tool for you to have the webinar on this topic. So I hope you have found it useful. As you can see, we've got our home page. We can navigate across to our about page. It seems like I've got the URL wrong in the shared header. So let's just double check that. That's Jim about. It seems like it's right. Potentially I've got it set up wrong somewhere. Let's go and check our about page. And it's good to see things like this live because these things can happen. So let's try and debug it while we're here. If we view our page, it might be worth, you can see what we've got is we've got our URL is actually slightly different here to the one here. So we can change that. Like so. And I think it's actually going to be the same for all of them. So it seems like I've got a bit of a typo in there, but it doesn't seem to be too much of a problem if I think it was like that. Let's see, let's try this out now. And the reason for that is because I actually added a typo Convertri subdomain. You can see here it's webist instead of website. If we go through now, you can see we fixed it up. What it was a typo. It looks like we've got one here as well. Let's just change the contact one. And we need to republish all our pages. And you'd think this might be planned so that I can show you how to handle, as you say, David, how to handle the glitches. It wasn't planned, unfortunately, but it's good to go through these things. So we'll republish all. Luckily, we've got this tool here, so we know now that I'm republishing all the pages. They're all up to date to the changes I've made. If I go into this one and view the page, we've got our home. We can go to our about. We can go from about to contact. We can go contact to about. We can go about to home. We can go home to contact, and we can go contact to home. So we fixed it. It was a small typo in the URL. But you can see sometimes things will go wrong when you're building out sites. That is the nature of the beast. But as long as you just, work your way through it, what might be the problem? It might just be a typo. It's why it's important to keep a note of your URLs. And of course, we've got those republishing features now. So you can republish every page in your funnel, and the up-to-date changes you've made will be there. So we've got our site now. I'm pretty pleased with it. As I said, in the short amount of time it took us to build, we can go along and submit our information, choose a class type, submit the form. It'll go to the home, which of course we had set up wrong, and we'll then get a new email submission on the form, as you can see here. I think that is actually one from earlier, so that won't be the right one, but I didn't actually submit it on my phone that time, so it won't come across because I am on the same IP address. So there's the website built out, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it was useful for you. If there's any other questions before we wrap things up, I'm happy to take them. We've got about 10 minutes or so, so we do have a bit of time there. Okay, so Ryan's asking, if you're going to use a custom domain, is it important to set that up first so the web addresses in Convertri are correct? That is right, Ryan. So you want to have your domain purchased first, really, just because then you can go ahead and link your pages together. If you did have it, if you did build your site out first and then you wanted to add your domain after, it's not too much of a problem. You are able to actually move a whole funnel to a new domain. So look at our gym website here. If we go to more and then go move to domain, we can move this to any other domain that we wanted to, and then we just have to republish our pages, and that would work fine. We would have to update any links we'd already set though. Chuck's asking about using WordPress and Convertri, so we can go through the few options that you've got there, Chuck. The easiest and best way is going to be the WordPress plugin. That will allow you to display your CVT pages on WordPress. And that's probably the best option if you want everything on the same domain. So let's say you've got your WordPress site and your domain set up there, and you've built pages in Convertri and you want them to be all on the same. You can do that, but it is going to be slightly slower. You're going to lose a bit of the Convertri speed because it will load WordPress first and then the Convertri pages. You need to use the WordPress plugin for that, which is down here in our account section. Download the plugin, set it up in WordPress, and use the plugin on a new page to add your page that you've built in Convertri. So that's one option. The other two are going to be if you want subdomains. For example, if you want your blog on a subdomain of your main site, for example, like blog.domain.com. This is probably a better option if your product or your service is like the main and your blog is secondary. For example, we used to have a Convertri blog that we ran at blog.convertri.com. And the way you do that is set up your domain, your custom domain in Convertri, then set up WordPress on the subdomain of that domain. So for example, blog.domain.com, but you would need your own separate hosting for that. And then again, the other option is to basically do that, but the other way around. So WordPress, you're set up as normal. You have your custom domain in WordPress, and then you'd create a subdomain for your Convertri pages within Convertri. And we've got help guides on that at help.convertri.com. So I'll put this in the chat now. If anyone doesn't know about our knowledge base, it is a really good resource, help.convertri.com. You're going to be able to find out loads of things there. We do have the replays held there as well, so I can see it. Someone's asking about videos. I ran a video webinar not so long ago, and I'll take you to it now so you can watch it whenever you're available to do so. If you go help.convertri.com, training webinars, and then we've got here better video with Convertri. I'll add this link in the chat as well. But we have a whole host of resources here, so it's a really good place to find out anything about Convertri. We don't have plans to bring in an in-house blog feature in the future, as I'm aware of. In terms of a list of freelancers who create Convertri websites, I'm going to point you in the direction of another great resource. It is our Facebook group. If any of you guys aren't members, I would strongly recommend joining. We have loads of different levels of users in there. We have members of staff. As you can see, Neil's in there replying to people's questions. I'm in there myself. We have different content that gets posted. People of all experiences of Convertri asking questions, and everyone is really helpful in there. So I definitely recommend joining that. Clarence is asking about custom 404 pages. Again, we'll have a help doc on that. So if you go to help.convertri.com, you can see here we've got a 404 page article, which will show you exactly how to set up a 404 page. Yeah, so Jane's asking if you're running a sale and you have a CTA, a call to action on the top that appears in all the pages, could you do that in the shared header? Yeah, you absolutely could. All you have to do is in your shared header, let's go back to our gym site. And header and footer, you just need to add the button. If it's a sale button or a button that takes them to a sales page, you just use the form elements, submit button. As you can see in the shared header menu, it is the same builder. So you can essentially do exactly the same thing you want. Obviously, you're not going to have crazy designs for headers because they aren't like that really. They're not used for that. But if you wanted a call to action that was at the top, you could keep that. One thing that's worth showing you with the shared header is you can actually make it sticky. So if we go back to our home page and then go into page settings, headers and footers, make the headers sticky. And if we republish it, you'll see now that it stays at the top. So that's the sticky feature for the shared header. And obviously it's quite useful if you want your navigation bar there the whole time. Yeah, Ryan, there is a help video on how to import web pages into Convertri. I can show you how you do that in the app as well. If you have the URL of the page, you do need to have permission to do this. So if it's a page you own or if you've got permission from whoever created it, then that's fine. But all you need to do is in your funnel, click import page and then use URL here. So this is where you type your URL, then just tick you confirm, give your page a name and then click import and it will do that for you. And it will take a couple of minutes to just import everything and you can then open it as a Convertri page and make changes to it if you want to. It is a really cool feature, yeah. Okay, we've got about a minute left, so I'm going to wrap things up now, guys. Thank you all for coming. It's been a really great webinar. I'm glad so many of you turned up, and hopefully you've all enjoyed it and found it useful. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email us at support@convertri.com. We do have someone on the support desk pretty much 24/7. So I've put that in the chat as well. and that will hopefully be able to help out any questions you might have after the webinar. I know it's easy to go off, and while you're eating dinner or something, you might be thinking, I wish I'd have asked Dan that. So don't worry, you can ask in the support email, or if you join the Facebook group, you'll be able to ask there as well. And you're all very welcome. I can see all your thanks in the chat. That is all okay. It's much appreciated. You're welcome. And I'm glad that you guys came along. Okay, so hopefully you've enjoyed. And if you do happen to come across me again in the future, I hope I can help you out again. And hopefully you'll be coming along to more webinars in the future. Thanks everyone, and have a good day. Bye bye.